Hi, welcome to Making Peace with Food session number 3. We're so glad to have you back. Just as a reminder, my name is Sharisa Passy, and I'm a wellness coach with the Center for Healthy Living. And my co-facilitator is Devin Sullivan, also a wellness coach. And we're so glad to be able to support you on this journey. So as we dive into week 3, let's remind ourselves about the purpose of this 4-week program. So, this program is designed to help us to understand emotional eating. It's not until we really understand our patterns, why we eat, what's triggering us, um, how we choose what we're going to eat, when we eat, where we eat, that we can really start to change these patterns around. So, we spend a lot of time really getting to know ourselves in this series. Also, we want to improve our relationship with food because no one wants to live the rest of their lives having to think about every single meal, every single choice they make, with weight being at the top of their mind all the time. Instead, we want some freedom. So, we want to experience food freedom. We want to experience freedom in our lives. So, we're developing some new habits that are going to help us to just have more peace and more freedom. So, here is our program overview. Session 1, we talked about cultivating a healthy relationship with food. So, just as a reminder, we said that all foods can fit into a healthy lifestyle, but our goal is to focus on intaking more of those nourishing foods. Session 2, we talked about triggers to eating and cognitive behavioral therapy. And just as a reminder of what that was about, we acknowledged that some of our triggers might be related to grief, worry, stress, anxiety, boredom, maybe even rewarding ourselves that we got through a challenging day. And so, cognitive behavioral therapy tells us that a situation occurs that's out of our control. That's life. And then as a result of that situation, we start to have some automatic thoughts. Those thoughts predict how we're going to feel, and those feelings determine how we're going to respond. But if we can change our thoughts, if we can catch them and reframe them, then we can change how we feel and change how we respond. And so that's a really important tool that we want to continue to practice as we move forward. Today is on body image, self care, and managing emotions without food. And then session 4 is all about intuitive eating or the anti diet. And we provide information on ongoing support. Throughout this whole journey, we want to remember that behavior change is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, just like we didn't learn how to ride a bike overnight. So it's going to take consistency and patience. We have to be kind to ourselves. We have to dust up our knees when we fall off with that bike and get right back on and try again without judging ourselves. So it's really important to give ourselves kindness and compassion and grace and to remember that the goal is progress, not perfection. So, of course, we always like to have our group check in. And during our check in, we just like to think about the highlights. What happened over this last week? And we also want to reflect on the things that went well for us rather than, I should have done this, I could have done that, because those shoulda, coulda, woulda thoughts are thought distortions. And we talked about that in session 2. And then, of course, we can reflect on any other thoughts that come to mind with this program. But before we get too much more into that, we want to have a mindful minute. And this mindful minute, it will be more than a minute this time because we want to introduce you to a new strategy. And this strategy is a body scan. It's a chance to really check in with our bodies from head to toe to see maybe where we're holding tension and stress so that we can make an intention to release that stress. So by scanning our body, we become more aware of how it feels. And then if anything isn't feeling right, then we can decide how we're going to respond. So are we going to do some deep breathing? Are we going to give ourselves a little shoulder massage? Are we going to stretch? How are we going to make ourselves feel better? So, just to get into our body scan, I'd like to invite you to make yourself comfortable. Sit in a chair and allow your back to be straight, but not stiff, with your feet on the ground. Or if you'd like, you could also do this practice standing or lying down with your head supported. Your hands could be resting gently in your lap or at your side. Allow your eyes to close or remain open with a soft gaze. Take several long, slow, deep breaths, breathing in fully and exhaling slowly. Breathe in through your nose and out through your nose or your mouth. And feel your stomach expand on an inhale and relax and let go as you exhale. Begin to let go of any noises around you. Begin to shift your attention from outside to inside yourself. If you're distracted by sounds in the room, simply notice these sounds and bring your focus back to your breathing. Now, slowly begin to bring your attention down to your feet. Observe sensations in your feet. You might want to wiggle your toes a little bit, feeling your toes against your socks or your shoes, or maybe against the ground. Just notice without judgment. You might imagine sending your breath down to your feet, as if the breath is traveling through the nose to the lungs and through the abdomen all the way down to your feet. And then back up again through your lungs and out through your nose. Or perhaps you don't feel anything at all, and that's okay too. Just allow yourself to feel the sensation of not feeling anything. And when you're ready, allow your feet to dissolve in your mind's eye and move your attention up to your ankles, calves, knees, and thighs. Observe the sensations you're experiencing throughout your legs. Breathe into and breathe out of the legs. If your mind begins to wander during this exercise, gently notice it without judging and bring your mind back to noticing the sensations in your legs. And if you notice any discomfort, pain, or stiffness, don't judge it, just simply notice it. Observe how all sensations rise and fall, shift and change from moment to moment. Notice how no sensation is permanent. Just observe and allow the sensations to be in the moment, just as they are. Breathe into and out from the legs. Then, on the next breath, allow the legs to dissolve in your mind and move to the sensations in your lower back and pelvis, softening and releasing as you breathe in and out. Slowly move your attention to your mid back and upper back. Become curious about the sensations here. You may become aware of sensations in the muscle, temperature, or points of contact with furniture or the bed. And with each out breath, you may let go of tension you're carrying. And then very gently shift your focus to your stomach and all the internal organs there. Perhaps you notice the feeling of clothing, the process of digestion, or the belly rising and falling with each breath. If you notice opinions arising about these areas, just let them go and return to noticing sensations. As you continue to breathe, bring your awareness to the chest and heart region and just notice your heartbeat. Observe how the chest rises during the inhale and how the chest falls during the exhale, and let go of any judgments that may arise. On the next out breath, shift the focus to your hands and your fingertips. See if you can channel your breathing into and out of this area as if you're breathing into and out of your hands. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the sensations in your hands. And then on the next out breath, shift the focus and bring your awareness up to your arms. Observe the sensations or the lack of sensations that may be occurring there. You might notice some difference between the left arm and the right arm, and that's okay. As you exhale, you may experience the arms soften and release tension. Continue to breathe and shift focus to the neck, shoulder, and throat region. This is an area where we often have some tension. Be with the sensations here. It could be tightness, rigidity, holding. You may notice the shoulders moving along with the breath, but let go of any thoughts or stories you're telling yourself about this area. And as you breathe, you may feel tension rolling off of your shoulders. On the next out breath, shift your focus and direct your attention to the scalp, head, and face. Observe all the sensations occurring there. Notice the movement of the air as you breathe into or out of the nostrils or mouth. And as you exhale, you may notice the softening of any tension that you may be holding. And now let your attention expand out to include the whole entire body. Bring into your awareness the top of your head down to the bottom of your toes. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath as it moves throughout the body. And as you come to the end of this practice, take a full deep breath, taking in all the energy of this practice. Exhale fully, and when you're ready, open your eyes and return your attention to the present moment. As you become fully alert and awake, consider setting the intention that this practice of building awareness will benefit everyone you come in contact with today. So now that we're done with that practice, I'm curious about how you feel. Take a moment to just reflect on how you feel as a result of that practice. And that practice took less than 5 minutes. So just think about it. How are you feeling in this moment? And if that practice was supportive for you, I encourage you to add it to your self care toolbox. That's why we practice all these different things so that when you need them, you have them available. You've already practiced them. And so now let's go ahead and continue. For our check in, we're going to think about what went well last week, what was challenging, and what is on your mind today. As a reminder, last week we talked a lot about cognitive behavioral therapy and thought distortions. And you might have set the intention to be kinder to yourself or to acknowledge those thought distortions. And once you recognize them, to try to change them, to reframe them. So, what went well? What was challenging? And what's on your mind today? So, I'll just take a moment to reflect on that. And we'll go ahead and move forward. So, as we said, today is all about body image, self care, and managing emotions. So, as we dive into this topic, have you tried keeping a mindful thought log? A mindful thought log is really closely aligned with cognitive behavioral therapy. A mindful thought log helps us to check in to figure out, what am I thinking? How are those thoughts making me feel? And what do I want to do as a result of how I'm feeling? So, in its most basic form, those are the three elements of a mindful thought log. But you can expand it to also think about, well, what do I have an urge to eat as a result of how I'm feeling? When do I have an urge to eat? What am I doing in this moment? So, really taking time to investigate what's going on in our mind and what's going on with our feelings. And so, if you haven't tried a mindful thought log before, we encourage you to give it a shot. And the reason why it can be so helpful is it really helps us to be more in tune with our body. And it makes those pesky thought distortions not so automatic. So, if we can start to practice really reflecting on what's going on in our mind, then we're more aware. So, instead of those thoughts just immediately giving us a certain feeling, we can stop and reframe them in the moment, and then we can make ourselves feel a little bit better. Another thing we want to reflect on is our self-talk and core beliefs. And so, what messages and beliefs do you practice regarding food and dieting, and where do you think they come from? Some of the common beliefs out there, or some of the common messages are, I have to clean my plate because if I don't clean my plate, it shows that I'm not grateful for my food. Or maybe if I'm not cleaning my plate, someone in a different part of the world is starving as a result, and that food could have gone to them. Or maybe I feel like I need to be on a diet because that's the only way I'm going to get to my health goals. So, where do these thoughts and messages come from? A lot of times they come from our family. So, the way we grew up, maybe they come from our caretakers, maybe they come from our friends, maybe from media, whether it's things we've seen on TV, even social media. All of these things can play a role. Maybe it's culture. So, being aware of where these thoughts come from, it can really help us to decide, am I going to continue to allow this messaging into my head? Are these thoughts that are going to serve me well at this point of my life or at this time as I'm going through this health journey? And if not, we have the ability to change the messaging. So that's part of what we're doing through making peace with food. So let's talk about body image and self-care. Now, these topics, they may not seem connected, but they are. If we have poor body image, we're less likely to think that we're deserving of self-care. So improving our body image helps us to know our self-worth so that we know that self-care is something we deserve. So they really do go very closely together. So think about this. How often are you concerned about your body shape, weight, or general appearance? All the time, some of the time, maybe very little of the time, not at all. Where do you fall on this scale here? How often are you concerned about your body shape, weight, or general appearance? It's an interesting question, and every single time we ask it in Making Peace with Food, the vast majority of people say all the time. And then the rest say some of the time. I think maybe I've had one or two people who are like, none of the time. But most of us have some sort of concern about our body shape and appearance. So, if this is something that you're experiencing, we're going to work together to improve our body image so we can also improve our self care. Now, here are some strategies for reframing body image. First, we can appreciate what our body can do. So now we're shifting the focus away from our body being maybe aesthetically pleasing to focusing on the purpose of our body. What is our body meant to do? It's not just meant to look pretty. Our body is meant to do a variety of things, from helping us to be mobile. That's what our legs are for. Allowing us to hold things, hug people. That's what our arms do. Our face helps us to express emotions non-verbally and verbally. And so our body is really powerful. So appreciating what our body can do rather than how it looks is a really critical way that we can reframe our body image. Also, keeping a list. So, on the days when we're not feeling our best, it's hard to remember what we like about our body. It's hard to appreciate what our body can do. So, keeping a list so we don't have to put forth that mental energy in that moment, it can really help. And we can reflect back on that list. So, what do we like about ourselves? And we are not just how we look. Maybe we like our personality. Maybe we like our smile. Maybe we like our sense of humor. Maybe we like our intelligence. Maybe we like our ability to connect with others or to make others feel special or wanted. There are so many things that we can appreciate about ourselves. And then we want to remember what true beauty is. Now, it's really fascinating that we will all have a different opinion of beauty. There are different things that we all like. Cultures are different in their definitions of beauty. And so, what is true beauty to you? Only you can define that. Is true beauty related to who a person is on the inside? Is it related to that person's personality? What are those things that really make a person beautiful outside of their outward appearance? These are the features, the qualities that someone carries with them throughout their lives, so that regardless of what they look like, they have this beautiful essence about them. So, reflecting on that, what makes you really admire someone else? And what makes you really admire yourself? And then looking at yourself as a whole person. So, we touched on this already, but looking at yourself as a whole person means not just looking at your outward appearance, but also looking at um, what makes you special. So, what is your personality like? What are the things that bring you joy? What are things that people appreciate about you? So, looking at all of these things can really help us to remember we're more than just our outward appearance, we're more than just our weight. Then we want to surround ourselves with positive people. It's amazing how big of a difference surrounding ourselves with positive people can make. So, for example, if we're surrounding ourselves with people who are hypercritical when it comes to weight and health, physical appearance, then we're going to become more uncomfortable. We might become aware of things that other people think are flaws. And so instead, we want to surround ourselves with people who are going to really fill our cup and make us feel better and have more of a broader focus. I've had this experience in my personal life where when I was surrounded by people who were fixated on weight and who were criticizing others, people they knew, people they didn't know, saying, this person gained weight, this person lost weight, this person looks sick, this person looks healthy, on and on and on. I noticed I was so self conscious around those people. And so when I started hanging out with another group of people that never talked about weight, and instead we just had fun together, we just focused on enjoying our time together, it was amazing how much more confident I felt. And so it's really powerful. The people we surround ourselves by can make a huge difference in our mindset. We also want to critically view social media. Social media is tricky. People have all sorts of editing tools out there. We don't know what to believe. When someone posts a picture, we might think of we might think that picture is of them right now when it's really from 15 years ago. It's really hard to trust social media because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know the context. And so not using social media to judge ourselves, that's really, really important. And then we want to shut down negative thoughts. So that's why we spent so much time looking at various thought distortions last time and really labeling them. Because when we add a label to them, we're more likely to catch them. So anytime a negative thought comes into our head, we want to become investigators. Is this thought true? Or is it a thought distortion? Is this thought using those tip off words like all or nothing or never or all the time, those kinds of things? So if we recognize that these thoughts are negative and that they're not helping us to get to where we want to go, we want to catch them, we want to change them. And then we want to do nice things for ourselves. So, as we engage in more self care, as we do nice things for ourselves, we start to realize how good it makes us feel and that we're worth it. And then helping others helps us to just totally get out of our heads and focus on the bigger picture of life. And wearing clothes that work for us. So we live in our bodies, and I know that that sounds silly, but if we think about it, our body is like our home. We live in it all the time. And when we put clothes on our body, those clothes can either help us to feel confident and comfortable, or they can be a constant reminder of how we feel uncomfortable. So if we're wearing things that are tight, things that are constricting, they don't allow us to move the way we want to, and can be that constant reminder of, oh, I don't like where I am right now in this journey. I don't feel my best. I don't like how I look. So instead, we want to wear things that work for us, or at least things that take our mind off of our weight, um, so that we can just feel more comfortable and have more peace of mind. So we'd like to encourage you to do this activity, letter to self. think about it as a homework assignment, or you can do it right now. You can pause this recording and do this. This letter to self is a really powerful activity to start appreciating your body a little bit more and recognize all that it does for you. So, in this letter, first we want you to write to your body, dear body, thank you for whatever it is that you want to thank your body for. Thank you for all the work you do to keep me running. I was recently reflecting on this. I had an injury. It was pretty bad, but I was so impressed by how my body healed itself. And so I said, even though I have pretty bad scars from this, physical scars, I was able to say, "Dear body, thank you so much for being able to heal it so amazingly." Um, it's incredible that my body is working just the way it did before this injury. And even though I have these scars on the outside, it's just really a reminder of how powerful my body is to kind of put the pieces back together. So, dear body, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for your powerful ability to heal itself. And if your body could respond back to you, what would it say? Well, my body might say, Dear Cherie, thank you for trying to feed me good food. Thank you for trying to keep me moving. Thank you for managing your stress because all of these things help me to heal you even better. Or whatever it might be. So, here for example, we have Dear person, thank you for moving more, drinking more water, feeding me healthier foods, being mindful with your thoughts. So this letter's super personal, super individualized. Whatever you feel like you need to say to your body, whatever your body needs to say back, feel free to write that down and reflect on that. Okay, so now let's get into self-care. So, what besides food brings you pleasure? What healthy things besides food bring you pleasure? Take a moment and think about that. What are some healthy things besides food that bring you pleasure? But if you need some help, we have some examples of things. Self-care can happen in so many different areas. So maybe there's things that bring us pleasure in some of the items on this list. So physical, maybe we love how it feels to be active. Maybe we like to swim in the ocean. Maybe we like to paddleboard or surf. Or maybe we like to float and just have the sun hit our face. Maybe we like going to yoga or Pilates or Zumba. Maybe we like to go on hikes. Financial, maybe it feels so good to us to feel financially stable or to start saving our money. Spiritual, maybe feeling connected to nature is really important to us or being part of a religious group. Social, spending time with family, friends. Intellectual. Intellectual might be how am I expanding my mind? How am I strengthening my mind? What things am I learning that are new that kind of broaden my horizons? And then emotional. So, how am I filling my cup emotionally? Maybe I'm working with behavioral health to get emotional support, or maybe I'm doing things that help me to self-soothe in a healthy way, like deep breathing or aromatherapy or taking a bath or whatever it might be. Just reflecting on nature or on our beautiful surroundings here. So these are some of the self-care cornerstones of wellness. And so I'm curious what you're currently doing in these areas to show yourself love and appreciation. What are some things that you're currently doing? And feel free to just choose your favorite area. You don't have to choose all of them. But what is an area that really calls out to you? And what are you doing for yourself to show yourself love and affection? So take a moment to think about that. And the more that we do for ourselves in these areas, the less likely we are to use food as a way to soothe ourselves. We talked in session one about how emotional eating tends to come about because we feel like we don't have another avenue to fill some sort of void within us. But when we can focus on the things that give us value, meaning, and purpose in life, then food doesn't have to be used as often. It doesn't need to be that little band aid that we put on our emotions. Instead, we can really heal ourselves on a deeper level. Okay. So now let's think about some common emotions. Here we have happy, lonely, frustrated, excited, sad, angry, all these. Oh, I said angry twice. But yeah, fatigue, feeling tired, feeling shame, stress, guilt, feeling burnt out. So, all of these emotions, these are pretty strong emotions. So, I'm curious, have you been able to track the thoughts that contribute to these emotions? We're using our cognitive behavioral therapy right now. So, we have a situation. That situation creates some thoughts. So, we think a certain way about the situation. And then those thoughts lead us to feel a certain way, and the feelings lead us to behave a certain way. So we're kind of taking it backwards. We're recognizing the emotions, and now we want to check in and figure out what thoughts are leading to these emotions. So, have you been able to track these thoughts that contribute to some of these emotions? And if not, we invite you to, because that can help us to be more aware of our mental patterns. We said earlier, this is a reminder from session one, that stress, depression, and anxiety can create these really strong feelings that can lead to emotional eating. So if we don't have a way to manage our stress, if we aren't getting support with our depression and anxiety, then we might tend to rely on food more to self-soothe. And as we know, if we use food to self-soothe, it's just temporary. And it can lead to more feelings of shame and guilt and discouragement. So, really taking the time to explore how we're feeling and get support, that is really, really important for making sure that we get out of this emotional eating cycle. Now, what are some symptoms of depression? So, depression can be experienced as sadness, no longer being interested in the things that were once important to us or that brought us joy, sleeping too much or too little, changes in appetite. So, not wanting to eat or eating maybe too much, isolating ourselves from those people who are important to us, feeling helpless and hopeless, feeling worthless, being irritable, feeling grumpy, struggling with motivation to get things done, thoughts of suicide, challenges with staying focused, increased anger and frustration, and just not feeling well in our body, feeling uneasy. But depression is treatable, and so we do encourage you to reach out to integrated behavioral health to get support if any of these symptoms are sounding familiar. Another reason why it's so important for us to treat these conditions is because if we don't, it becomes easier to not just self-medicate with food, but also with other substances like alcohol. So here are some guidelines for Americans. According to the guidelines for Americans, the dietary guidelines, it's recommended that adults drink no more than, well, if you're male, no more than 2 drinks a day, and for females, no more than 1 drink a day. So just to let us know what a drink is, 1 drink would be 12 ounces of beer, 8 ounces of malt liquor, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of hard liquor. So if we're getting more than that, then we're getting more than 1 serving a day. So being aware of our alcohol intake is really important. And if you have any concerns about that, we do have our substance abuse department that can support you with making a change so you can have better quality of life. Even if you feel like you're not exceeding these limits, trying to reduce our alcohol intake is really important for overall health and it's really important for weight management too, because alcohol can cause our stomach to stretch and can make it more difficult for us to stick with our healthy choices when it comes to eating. Addressing trauma. So, addressing trauma is really, really key on this journey because since food is such a common tool for soothing our emotions, if we have trauma that hasn't been addressed, it's going to be even easier to rely on food to feel comfort. And so, taking time to address these deep wounds is really, really important for long term success. There's something called ACEs or adverse childhood events or experiences. So there was a large study that looked at childhood experiences and the traumatic events that people experience from 0 to 17 years old. And some of these traumatic experiences included physical or emotional abuse or neglect, sexual trauma, seeing violence around them, and having caregivers with mental illness. People who are exposed to adverse childhood experiences were more likely to experience alcoholism, suicide ideation, so thinking about suicide or even committing suicide, teen pregnancy, severe obesity, depression, drug use, diabetes, intimate partner violence or domestic abuse, eating disorders, mood disorders, and anxiety. And so this is if adverse childhood experiences go unaddressed. But the good news is, if we recognize that we've experienced these things, then we can get support. And when we get support, we can really reduce our risk of experiencing any of these outcomes here and have better quality of life. And so it really is important. And even if we feel like, okay, I've done a pretty good job of managing these things on my own or avoiding these things on my own, it still is helpful to talk to a professional because they can help us to dive even deeper and give us the tools to actually heal from these things so that much later down the road we don't have to worry about a recurrence. So to kind of shift back to body image, we have another activity here. What do you like about yourself? Maybe it's a struggle to think about what you like about yourself. And that's okay. It's normal to struggle with that. But we want to change that. We want to get into a practice of recognizing our amazing qualities, our amazing attributes, how we contribute to this world in our unique way. And we want to celebrate those things. So, we have a list of questions here. What do you currently appreciate about your life? What characteristics do you like about yourself? What are some of your positive traits and strengths? And what do your loved ones appreciate and say about you? Now, if you're struggling with thinking about what you like about yourself, we find that it can be easier to focus on this last question. What do your loved ones appreciate and say about you? Because now that encouragement, those recognitions are coming from the outside. So if we don't feel comfortable kind of propping ourselves up, let's think about what others have said about us. What do they appreciate? Do they appreciate that you are encouraging, you're supportive, you're kind, you're the fun parent, you're adventurous, you're organized, you're resourceful, you're reliable? What are those qualities? What are those attributes that others have recognized in you? So, keeping a list of those things can help to encourage us, even when we struggle to figure out what we like about ourselves. So, take some time to do that and really reflect on that. And now it's time for us to create an action plan. What are we going to do to put some of these concepts into practice? What is one self care goal that we will do in this next week using our SMART skills? So, as a reminder, SMART stands for specific. So, the more specific our self care goal is, the more likely we are to do it. If we can visualize ourselves taking care of ourselves, then we're more likely to do it because we're giving our brain that chance to practice it. We also want it to be measurable. So that means that it can't be something generic like, I'm going to do more self care. We want it to be um, what self care activity are we going to do? So that's specific. And then how much of it are we going to do? Or how often are we going to do it? So we might say, my self care will be taking a mindful walk. And so to make it specific, I might think, okay, when am I going to take this mindful walk? Maybe first thing in the morning, right after I wake up. Is there anyone I want to invite with me? Where am I going to walk? And then to make it measurable, how long am I going to walk? How many days a week am I going to walk? And then achievable. Is this something that I can fit into my day? Do I have time to do this mindful walk? However many times I'm deciding. So the more achievable it is, the more likely we're going to do it. We want to start with a baby step so we can get it done. Realistic. Is this something that's truly aligned with what gives me value, meaning, and purpose? Is this something that's truly aligned with my health goals? And then timed. We're going to give ourselves a week to experiment with this and check back in next week. So, what will you do? Take a moment to think about what you're going to do for your self care. Just a baby step, something that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. And then we look forward to checking in around it next time. Just as a reminder, today we talked about body image and self care and how those topics are very, very important for just improving our quality of life. In order for us to really engage in a good self care routine, we need to improve our body image. And some of the strategies for that were to create a list of the things we like about ourselves, recognizing that we're more than just our outward appearance, helping others, being critical of social media, those kinds of things. For self care, we talked about the cornerstones of wellness. So maybe it's spiritual, financial, physical. There are so many different things, intellectual. And then for managing our emotions, we want to focus on one of those areas so that we can figure out ways to bring ourselves joy that does not involve food. Also, it's important for us to address trauma. So we don't self medicate with food or with other substances or with alcohol, because our goal is to improve our health and well being overall. And there is support if you need it. So we do have substance abuse counselors, and we have our integrated behavioral health team. And so they would be more than happy to support you on your journey. So next week, we're going to follow up on your action plan to see how that went. And then we're also going to talk about intuitive eating and ongoing self care. So if you're tired of dieting, make sure to be here for next time. We're going to talk about intuitive eating, the anti diet. Also, as a reminder, as Kaiser members, you get premium access to these emotional wellness apps. So go to kp.org/self-care apps to download the premium version of the Calm app and Headspace Care at no additional cost. Here are some key phone numbers for you. So we have our integrated behavioral health phone number, or you can call the appointment line, which is 833-833-3333, and they can get you over to the integrated behavioral health team. Also, you can go to kp.org/mental health or the Department of Health Hawaii Cares Access line. We also have some crisis numbers here, and feel free to share this information with others. Here's some information on domestic violence, and also how you can reach out to the Center for Healthy Living if you're interested in any other classes or programs. Finally, make sure to stay safe. There are a lot of bugs out there. And we want to just thank you for taking this time to be here with us today. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of you until next time. Mahalo.